I don't know, I have like 9 books, so maybe we'll just pull names or something, or whatever you guys want. So thank you for coming out here today. Thank you for letting me speak. I really like to start every presentation with the boredom of asking you, why are you here? What questions do you have? And do you trust me? Good. Now that we got that out of the way, we can get into a presentation. So Alan and I have been coming here for about, I don't know, maybe the last 10 years, as long as I could remember. This is one of the most solid networking, connected groups, maybe in the country. There's a lot of networking that goes on out there, but raise your hand if you go to a lot of groups where you're there and you don't know why you're there, because everyone is self-consumed, concerned with themselves, doesn't really share information, and it's boring, it's not fun, and you wonder, are you ever going to land your next job? Right? We all kind of go to those. And what I'm going to share with you today is through a change of attitude, you can get whatever it is that you want, and it's going to start today. So I've been doing speaking for about 20 years. I've been helping people in transition for over 15 years. I've done the math. I've sat with over 10,000 people one-on-one. There was times when I'd sit with 3, 4, or 5 people a day. I'm fascinated by the process and what goes on. But I also know from experience that when you're in transition or you put yourself in a place of need, that the phone doesn't ring towards you, that people don't really want to talk to you, that people don't really want to help you. And what I learned maybe 15 years ago is with a shift or a change of attitude, or how you communicate your message, people do want to meet with you, people do want to interact with you, people do want to help you get where you want to go, right? So I've been doing that for about 15 plus years. In 2009, I created a group called the Mastermind Group, Mastermind Connection. Just reading a book Jack Canfield wrote, Success Principles. There was a chapter that was reading to me that said basically if you pull a group of people together that are like-minded and have a singular purpose, opportunities can show up from that. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is the power of being part of a group, whether it's 2 people or 20 people, but being a part of a group that gets together regularly to find opportunities. The other thing we're going to talk about today is how to build trust, how to have trust, because with trust and with confidence, you can pretty much have anything that you want. So we're going to talk about these different things today. We'll spend about an hour. If you have any questions, you can feel free to jump in. If you're long-winded, I'll just share with you that you're long-winded, and then maybe you can turn down the question. But we do have some fun today. Once in a while, one of you is going to laugh. Feel free to laugh along with them. Presentation-wise, I just shared with you who Chateau is. Many of you are not going to be able to read the slides. Maybe the slides don't even work, but that's called technology. You're probably better off not even using it. But I did. Yeah. I gave you what we're going to learn. So there's 7 secrets to being able to find your unlimited confidence. What's interesting about this is why 7? Why not 12? Why not 15? I was sitting down with a speaker coach years ago, and 7 just rattled off my tongue. These are the 7 that we're going to learn about today. The first one is to be able to trust first. I need half of the room to be able to shift from being untrusting, scrupulous, and thinking that the world is negative and out to get you, to that whatever it is that you want, you can have. And that if you trust the process of the world is abundant and the world wants to give you whatever it is, and that every single person you meet has the intention of trying to help you, then you're going to find that your process towards getting your next job is going to happen a lot quicker when you trust first. You have to let go of control. You have to let go of the outcomes. You have to almost surrender to the universe just to be able to have and get whatever it is that you want. Here's the other thing. The half of you that don't trust first, who want to actually end up with a really great job tomorrow, there's so many people in this room today where you don't even know where you want to work, you don't know what you want to do, your elevator pitch sucks, you can't communicate your message, and I think part of not trusting is that you're scared of yourself and scared of the outcomes that might come from that. Does that make sense? Surrender to what you want, but also get a coach. Meet with someone like me. Meet with the people in this room who are coaches and mentors who want to be able to help you come up with who you are, what your story is, and why you're here. And show through the process that you're a caring person, which is someone that's a giver, not a taker. So number one in being able to find your confidence is to be able to trust first. Number two is not only to be able to share your story, but to have a story. What I find in this room, and in many cases, these senior top executives, CEOs, presidents, VPs, people that have modified and changed the world for the better, have no ego or attitude, and in their world, they don't even have a story. They don't have a why. They don't know why they're trying to get their next job, so I might as well just try to get my next job because I want to be able to save money and have a nice retirement. But companies don't care about that why. They care about what's in it for them. They care about your passion. When you're actually interacting with someone, and you could talk about the fact that, you know, as an example, you've done incredible things over here. Like I was with someone the other day, they did the technology and made paperless a financial institution. I think it was BMO. How cool would it be that you want to be able to take that experience of 20 years and be able to bring it over to the next institution and know who to hire, what to do, and how to implement a paperless system? That could be what you're passionate about. So the idea around the why is to know what you're passionate about, to know what you care about, and be able to transmit that story to the person that you're talking to be interesting. So when you have that, you'll see that more people are going to be able to interface with you and be able to help you get what it is that you want. But part of this, step number one and step number two, is to know what you want. Okay? So Steve Yester wrote a book called Ditch the Pitch. I read the book, but I promise you, in the world that I live in, a lot of times you can just read the title and like change your life. So I have this one book, it's called Choices, right? All you got to do is know how to make choices. Another book is Relax into Wealth. You don't need to read the book, just relax, and then come over to this side of the room and then watch wealth show up, right? Because that's what the book's about, right? So at the end of the day, you know, go Google or look at the video, which was Simon Sinek's book on What's Your Why, where he talks about Apple versus Samsung and how Apple is about community and about how it brings people together, whereas Samsung might be a better phone and have more variables that you could use and operate, but Apple is based on community, and that's why you would buy it. So learn about what your why is. On the website, there's also exercises that will help you figure out what your strengths are to your why versus the fact that you're just kind of going out there and want to get a job because you're supposed to, or because your spouse told you to, or because you think that's what you're supposed to do in life. Number three is to be an expert. Now what's interesting is all of you in this field here today do a lot of similar things. You're financial executives. So you don't feel like you're necessarily an expert because you're in a room of experts, so that must make you a generalist. Okay? But you're an expert at something. You're an expert at something within the financial community. You've done something in your past that makes you an expert. You've created worksheets, or you deal with business intelligence. You're able to give reporting so that the CEO, which might be you, but the CEO or president could sleep at night because you understand how to help them understand the reports and what they need. So raise your hand right now if you feel like you're an expert. Right? But there's some of you that don't. And so I want you to be able to get there because you need to be an expert. Experts make more money. By the way, give yourself a 25% raise from the last company that you were working at and see if that doesn't help your heart rate go up. But with that kind of confidence, there's people here whose next job, you're going to get that 25% raise or 50% raise. But many of you don't even feel like you have expertise to be able to deserve that, so you don't ask. So you kind of go through the process, but you don't smile, you don't have fun. You're afraid to make the phone calls that are going to get you where you want to go. So that's what it's talking about to be an expert. And by the way, expertise could be that you're an expert at something very simple, or that you know a math equation or a formula, or you know how to do something that other people don't know how to do, or that you're just one of a few people in the entire country that could do it. Being an expert doesn't mean that you are a scratch golfer. It means that you could just be incredibly good at just putting or driving. And in your cases, figure out what nuances make you an expert and then stick with it and share with the people that you're interacting with what makes you different and what makes you an expert. I think it's really important to have that. The next thing is the power of listening. So far, thank you all for being really great listeners and understanding that listening, even 90% of the time, is incredibly important to having a sense of confidence. Because here's the deal, does anyone really care, other than you're looking for a job, about you? Do they even care that you're looking for a job? Do people really engage and say, oh my gosh, like, hey, how you doing? I really care about you, Phil, and I want to know everything about you? We found years ago that people don't. They care about themselves. But there are people out there, when you engage them and when you interact with them, where you have a way of making it a banter back and forth, but more about them, they're more inclined to help you. So one of the things that we talk about here is, within a meeting, even if it's an hour, make it about them. So if they ask you what you do, as an example, Alan and I are happy to meet with you one-on-one and connect with you and try to help you with opportunities or leads or things like that. But we're also financial investors, investment planners. We help you with your retirement income. So we help you with your retirement income so that we make sure that you don't run out of money in your retirement, right? Hey, and also we're doing really well, now back to you. So if I give you, and we're going to talk about your elevator pitch, if I give you an elevator pitch, it's then back to you. I want to know more about you. I'm not trying to sell myself. If I'm in transition, I'm a financial executive, I have expertise at crunching numbers, doing it on time, under budget, and you would be amazed at how much more money a company can make when I do that. Now back to you. So what I want to share with you, instead of you thinking that you need to pitch yourself and talk for an hour about you, if you could just share a few sentences about you and then put it back on the other person to share about their opportunities and what's on it for them, you will see that they're going to interact and help you more when you do that. How many of you have had conversations where they don't even catch their wind, right? So it's like how I was just communicating. I'm kind of, the words are just rolling off my tongue. When you're having a dialogue, you want to be able to have a banter back and forth. Just try to make it 90% about them, giving them the floor, listening, and also think about this. Try not cutting them off when they're communicating. Now, I have a tendency to do that all the time, so Alan's sitting up here laughing because he knows that. But think about this. What are the other things that they're trying to communicate when you just let them talk until they're done, right? So try to have an adult conversation, let them finish, let them make it about them, and really focus on one of the tools, which is listening. And by the way, it's up there, I believe, is in order to be a great listener, because it makes people nervous, how do you get people to talk? Learn how to ask great questions. So by asking great questions, they're going to talk, they're going to listen, and you're going to have a really great dialogue, and you're going to have confidence around it. You're going to have your story that's compelling, and you're going to find that people are going to want to help you and introduce you to their network. Now we come from a place of abundance. What I'm fascinated with, and you know that it goes on in these groups here, is that you have to share leads with each other for opportunities. So there's a CFO position open up at Walgreens, and the role is that you're going to share that CFO role with everyone in your CFO network and let them know that it's available. Now, some of you in this room would say, holy cow, I'm the first person to find out there's a CFO role. I'm not going to share with anybody because I want that job, and it's the only CFO role out there for me. How many of you raise your hand if you keep like jobs secret and don't share them with everybody? Which makes sense to someone that wants a job, except this is counterintuitive, but the people that end up getting their best help is, listen, let the company pick the best person for that particular job. You probably don't want it anyway if they don't pick you, and if they don't, after interviewing you, hire you. With social media, with Indeed and different tools, every job is pretty much out there, and we end up finding out about it. But if you come from a place of abundance, that there is a lot of jobs out there for you, you just have to find the companies. It's not even that they're going to find you, but you could look and find the companies that are hiring, become the person that's hireable based upon what we're talking about, and know that there's more than one job out there for you. So people come into my office, they go into the mastermind groups, and they're like, I didn't get the job. But they have 3 other companies that they're interviewing with. Because why? Because they have an expertise, they're sharing their message, they've used LinkedIn the way that it's supposed to be used, they've been found, and there's opportunities out there around that. Does that make sense? So if you have the place of scarcity, which there's probably 25% of this room who have that, I'm asking you to trust that there is for sure a job out there for you, quickly and efficiently, but come from a place of abundance, not from a place of scarcity, and not from a place of it's about you. Okay? When you can shift and make it about other people, the universe will conspire and help you get what you want when you decide what that is. To be self-aware. There's a lot of people who aren't. They chew gum and candy. I was sitting in a small room with about 10 people speaking, and the guy was leaning. He was wearing blue jeans in a formal environment. His hair wasn't, I don't think he showered that day, right? He was chomping on his gum. He was interrupting every couple of minutes, and he was being observed by the other people in the room. So the idea around this one is to be self-aware of who you are, what you're doing, how you come across in the world, how other people see you, because you're always being observed and watched. And you could even be observed and watched today, and then your name gets passed on because you made some comments or had some interaction with people that was positive, or it was passed on where it was possibly negative. But to understand that you're always being observed and watched and looked at is, I think, really important for you. And to be able to know that if you're being, to be self-aware, it's to be able to go to the health club, to be able to get in shape, to be able to start taking care of yourself, maybe rotate your wardrobe. Right? There was a gentleman I was with who had a frayed tie, like the whole tie was frayed, it was 50 years old, and then he had the white shirt with the pen in the pocket with the ink coming out. Right? Now the good news is he owned the company, so it didn't matter. But for the rest of you, we possibly don't want that. Okay? The other thing is, when we talk about do not sell yourself. Do not sell products. What I would ask you to do is to share your story, let people know how they can help you, but try to do it without selling. How many of you are always nervous of, can you reach out to a potential person and ask them for help, every week? There's people out there that stalk, the word stalk, where you're just too needy. And I'm going to ask you to be less needy, more abundant, be able to have your story in place, practice it, and then you can watch how the world shifts and treats you differently as you go through it. So be self-aware. And then one of my favorites is to be a gift giver. And I'm, people are laughing. It's like, what's the gift of the week? But in my office I have, or I used to have more, but bottles of wine. I would have these wraps that you would put on suitcase handles so you would know it's your luggage. The phone has a magnet on it so it could go on your dashboard. I'm constantly trying to give away gifts, and I'm constantly trying to be able to help other people feel good about themselves, or at least feel like they got something. The other thing that I'm really big at is carrying around $5 gift cards to Starbucks. And then when someone treats me nice, or I've had a nice experience with someone in any environment I'm in, I'll give them a $5 gift card from Starbucks. Right? And I can tell you they work like magic. They're like candy. I've had people come up to me after 2 years and say, hey, I remember when you gave me that gift card, I really appreciated it, and thank you, and then how are you, and what's going on for you. The other thing you could do is, with Amazon today, it's pretty phenomenal. You could go online and buy books that are in excellent condition for like $5. So if there's books out there that you love or that you've read, go on Amazon, get a dozen copies of them, and start giving them to people and saying, hey, I thought that you might like this book, or this book could be of interest to you, and it's something that you might like. These are the 7 secrets of unlimited confidence. If you want to come in and talk about them, or you have other secrets that you've had that help you, let me know. But for about 5 years, these have been here. They're in the same order. And I really believe that if you exercise what we just talked about, that your level of confidence can go from a 5 or a 6 up to an 8, 9, or a 10. Okay? So that's this part of the presentation. The second part of the presentation as I go through is, now it's the job seeking part. Now that you have confidence, now you understand that you have a story, you have a pivotal point as to who you are, what you're about, how you go through life, and that you're worthy and you deserve to have a job that pays you with a 25% raise to what you were making. Now the question is, how are you going to let people know that you exist? And how are you going to make it so that with all this energy and all this worthiness, that someone's going to find you and hire you and give you a job starting next week, next Monday, right? So you have to start with a strategy, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So how many of you have heard of Brian Tracy? Right? So if you haven't heard of Brian Tracy, get out there, start listening to some of his material. His material comes from Napoleon Hill and 20 other people. I think they all copy each other. But he's made it in a really nice format where you could listen and learn. But one of the things that I learned from Brian Tracy is the creative job search. And with the creative job search, you have a universal law of hiring that's out there, and that if you believe this universal law, you need to use it. So law number one is, if you're going to make the company a lot of money, they're going to hire you. And if you're going to save the company a lot of money, they're going to hire you. Does that make sense? So which side of the, I just drew a blank, which side of the ledger? I knew you guys would know what that word was. Which side of the ledger are you on? Right? So when you know that, you have to pick 20 companies that you want to work at. So raise your hand here if you have over 10 companies identified that you want to work at within 10 miles of your house. Right? So there's like 3 of you. So isn't this a little bit of a numbers game as well? So we need to identify 20 companies. Let me ask you a different question. Are there 20 companies out there within 10 miles of your house that you could send a resume to? Yes. Right? So we need you to identify those. What's crazy is when you work with your left brain and you start deciding where you want to work and what it looks like, you shut down and you won't do anything and you go watch TV. But if they proactively emailed you and said, we have a job opening for a CFO at this company, all of a sudden you love the company, right? Especially if they're going to pay you. So what I'm sharing with you is start with finding the 20 companies, start getting some of the momentum, some of the rhythm out there that you're actually even looking for a job. Identify the companies, identify the people within the company. So as an example, they have Hoovers, they have LinkedIn, there's email addresses that you can find, there's ways to be able to contact them. And we have letters that are written that I give out in my office, which are basically like this. I worked in the industry for 20 years. I'd like to be able to come and talk about how do I transition my skills from company A to company B. Here's my LinkedIn profile. And if you have a few minutes, I'd like to be able to talk to you about A, how I can come in and be able to learn how to transition my skills. And maybe you're not the right person. Maybe you have someone else in the company that I could talk to. And I can tell you I've known about 20 people that have sent out 25 emails and end up with 5 interviews doing that. Okay? There's some other tricks to that too that I like, which is when I'm working with you, I have you CC me. And then you would say something like, my friend Chad Coe suggested I reach out to you, and I'd like to learn how to transition my skills from company A to company B. I personally believe there's something psychological that when someone's CC'd on an email, you have a tendency to open them or look at them a little bit more carefully in case you know that person, or in case there's a reason that they're involved or CC'd with that. So that's some of the tricks to that. But that's basically the creative job search, which is basically targeting who you want to go work for, finding them, going after them, picking up the phone and calling them. How many people here have actually picked up the phone and called the CEO or president and said, hey, I'm available? Right? So I have people that have come through my life who said, true story, I don't understand this whole networking thing, this whole job thing. Like, I just had 10 friends that were CEOs or presidents. I picked up the phone, I called them, and then they brought me in for some interviews. I interviewed with 2 different companies and 1 hired me. Right? But he picked up the phone and he called people. He wasn't hiding behind email. He wasn't hiding in networking groups where people weren't giving up names and interactions. He was actually out there being proactive about it. Sir?
When I was in my search, I found that by sending a letter to my contacts and telling them different companies that I was interested in, it wasn't necessarily that I was really interested in that specific company, but a company within that industry, which then they might say, well, I don't know anybody over there that's, you know, that they're looking, but I do know another company in that industry that is looking. And so that also can help you.
And that's a bullseye. And again, thank you for sharing that. That's really important for you guys to know. So it's really important to identify the 5 banks that you might want to work at. Not that you're going to get a job at those 5, but now it opens up people's minds to another 25. When you talk about the fact that you're a generalist and you just want to work in the banking industry, the way that our minds work, it's really hard for us to then identify the actual banks, because if you're not going to be specific, then my mind isn't going to be specific about who I can introduce you to or what it's going to look like. But when you were able to give me the name of 5 banks, my mind could get now around the size of the bank that you want, the look, the region, what they look like, and maybe even something that they're focused on or targeted in. So I personally believe it's really important to start identifying the names of companies And what you'll also find too, which is crazy, is when you find companies within 5 to 10 miles of your house, and now you start going to sporting events or going out to dinner or getting involved in the community or going to the health club, you'll find that the CEO or president or VP of that company is actually standing next to you, or may have been standing next to you for weeks or months, but you never knew it, right? It's just how the world works, and some of you in this room have experienced that, so I'm just going to put that out there that you have to just have an open mind to that this stuff works when you actually implement and start playing around with it. Influencing factors of getting hired is to be personable, be aggressive with a positive attitude, to look people straight in the eye, to have enthusiasm, and to know that when you write a letter, or you write a FedEx or a UPS, or you actually get mail in the hands of someone who has the ability to help you without being needy, that statistically they talk about as high as 80% of the time, you're going to get a favorable response to doing that. As a matter of fact, a lot of you have had assistants. So if I were to call up and you were busy or tied up, right, and I was able to talk to your assistant, you might even be more valuable to me because they actually run the company, right? And they could help me with who to talk to or what to do. So don't be afraid that you're getting someone's voicemail or you're dealing with someone's assistant. Treat them as the executive and then watch how the magic works, that they're going to be there to be able to help you and guide you. The best practices is to when you're going to get a job or how to get into someone's network or who do you feel that I should be able to meet, is to just to be able to be proactive in going out there and listening to your gut as to what makes sense for you. Right? And I ask people to just have steps. Step 1, 2, 3, repeat. Like it's your game plan, it's your strategy. I would like you to just have something really simple, which is an Excel spreadsheet of 20 companies, 40 people that you want to be able to meet or talk to. Proactively go after them and let them know you're available with what your expertise is and how you could help the company grow. Does that make sense? Okay? So, who do you know that I should meet is just a really simple question. You can almost end every single conversation with that. Who do you know that I should meet? Right? Or, first degree and close friend. So here's another one for you. How many of you have lost a best friend or a really close friend during this job search? Because they didn't help you with what your expectations were. Nobody willing to admit it, but it happens. So what I'm going to share with you is there's a book out there called Connectivity, which talks about the fact that your first degree close friends and family and relationships cannot help you mentally because they feel like they're in the same circle as you. And they feel like if they cross over, A, it could hurt or change the relationship. And they don't realize that it's hurting or changing the relationship from your side because they're not giving you what you ask for or what you want. But just realize that you need to go up to your second degree relationships and even third degree relationships. You're going to find that they're going to be much more helpful to you than your really close friends or the people that you have high expectations for. Now, the next one is goals. I really believe that it's extremely important to be able to have them. I want you to be able to have them where they're measurable, attainable, where they're written down. There's a Harvard study that those people that have written goals, that actually focus on them and care about them, achieve them at a higher rate than those people that don't, exponentially. The other piece to this is, how many of you know that you can change your goals every single day? Right? So a lot of us are afraid to write down our goals because what happens if we don't achieve them? And what I'm sharing with you is that you can write down your goals on a Monday and change them on a Tuesday. And then change them again on a Wednesday. But I've been working with goals and I've been working with this process for a lot of years. And I have found it to be very valuable and something that I'm no longer afraid of doing. And I'm willing to put numbers down and willing to put down activities that might be a little bit of a stretch. But what's crazy is how things show up and help you be able to accomplish or achieve those. Having vision. So again, many of you don't even know where you want to go. Many of you even just want to retire. So maybe just do that. Many of you may want to work at one more really great company. Identify what that really great company is. I have a lady, she was the head of Chase's foundation. And I had met with her over at Lurie Hospital 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. I go, how did you get that job and why would you go from Chase, head of foundation with Jamie Dimon, to working at Lurie Hospital? And she said, when I was about 18 or 20 years old, there was an article in the paper looking for a head of foundation at Children's. She cut it out, put it in her desk drawer, and kept it there for 20-some years. And when she went to go apply for the job at Lurie, she brought the article with and said, this is a company that I've always wanted to work at, and if you'll give me a chance, I think that I could do good for you. And Pat McGoon hired her and loved the story, right? So think about that. That was her why. Her why was she was more passionate about helping people of need within the hospital system versus just raising billions of dollars and millions through Chase and then giving that away. But she had kept the article for like 20 years and then brought it into her interview and shared that story with them. So to be able to have goals and visions is extremely important. Values is something that if you come into my office, I created a worksheet that I'm extremely proud of. And I ask everyone who comes in now to go through this process. And the process is your values. It also talks about, if many of you heard Dan Sullivan, who's the strategic coach, it talks about the relationship question that I'm going to give you now, that I want you to all think about using in your own search to help build relationships. Let's start with the values conversation though. The values conversation is, what's important about success to you? And you're all going to give me the baseline of, you know, family and being able to be independent and be able to have money and to be able to live a nice life. And we kind of, as we go up the staircase, what's important about having a nice life to you? What's important about family to you? Right? And so you get to a place where you actually know that you're on this planet and you're here to be able to give back because that's why you're here, and it's your altruistic self. And when you figure and find out what that is, I think you become a better person, and I think you're able to share that with others in a positive way so that people see you in a positive way. You know, when you're someone who's in HR or someone that meets with an awful lot of people, you can tell someone's level of happiness, content, not worthiness, but you can tell an awful lot about people just from their skin, from their eyes, from how they smile, from their demeanor, from how they approach these one-on-one meetings. So I think when you understand yourself a little bit better, I think that you're going to end up having better meetings with people. The other thing we talk about are goals. So I'm really big in helping you find an abundant life. How many of you would love an abundant life? So some of you already have it, where you're aligned personally, professionally, and financially, right? And so we talk about what are your goals, both personally, professionally, and financially, so that if you achieved every one of those, you get to have the 3-hour, you know, the 3-day work week. Or I used to tease about having the 4-hour work week from, what's his name? Tim Ferriss, right? And I used to try to work 4 hours a week. But again, having the 4-hour work week mentality, right? Or to be able to travel and know that you can work from anywhere in the country, or that you could take Fridays off because you choose to, right? So what are your personal, professional, financial goals? And then the other thing is the Dan Sullivan question, or the relationship question, which I love, which is if we're sitting here 3 years from now looking back, what has to happen? And I use the question personally, professionally, financially, for you to feel happy with your progress, right? But we don't actually take the time typically to figure that out for ourselves. So it's nice if you would ask other people that. Many people in this room have heard this because if you deal with Bill Burnett from the Peak Interview, he talks about that. That if you're sitting with your hiring manager who has the ability to hire you, the question is, if I'm sitting here a year from now and we're looking back and you hired me, what has to happen so that you're happy with the work that we did? And they're going to tell you with that question exactly what the job role is, and you're going to tell them whether you're the person for that job or whether you have somebody else for it. So you could even start a meeting with a question like that. What has to happen professionally? What has to happen if I end up in this job so that you're happy with the progress that we made? And now you could share with them that you're the right person and that why you won the job and that this is a really great place for you to be able to finish your career, or if it's a project that you'd really love the opportunity to help them with this project. And then you'll put in the 8 hours a week if that's what it takes for you to succeed at it. Now, once you have that, you can start even drilling deeper where you have the gap analysis on here as to what do you need to do to be able to get where you're going to go. And that's the conversation we have, and that's what I talk you through as you meet with me. It takes typically about 30 minutes of the meeting. Okay. Focus and clarity. Many of you don't have it. Many of you won't have it until you actually meet with someone or have a coach or someone where you can be accountable on a regular basis as to what it is that you want. I go around because I speak at Lee Heck twice a month, and I'll ask people what their elevator pitch is. And they have no idea. They don't even know how to say it. You guys, many of you, let's say you're CFOs, you don't even know how to describe that you're a CFO or that you do the financials for a company. So what I want you to start thinking about is your elevator pitch, which is, you know, I'm a CFO, I help with the financials of a company, and because of that, I help them make a ton more money. Now you're hireable, now they get it. The person you're talking to has heard enough, now you can make it back about them, right? And you can even ask them a question, which is, hey, where do you want to be a year from now? And with your successes, what does it look like so you're happy with your progress? And now they'll talk for up to 25 minutes, 30 minutes on what's important to them. And when they're done, they'll bring it back to you and say, hey, how can I help you? What introductions do you need? Who do you want to know? What can I do to be able to make your life better? Passion, you can tell from the communication that I have with you today, that passion and enthusiasm, based on Ralph Waldo Emerson and others, is I think the key to finding your success. As financial people or introverts, I think that it's hard sometimes for you guys to find outward passion and enthusiasm. But during this time, maybe come out of your box a little bit. Take improv, take comedy, start going to storytelling classes, I don't know. Read to your kids. But the idea is, what we have learned is that when you can be outgoing, passionate, enthusiastic, show your teeth, show that you care, open up your eyes and actually glow, that those people are going to find success quicker than those that are quiet, reserved, inside, and not focused or clear about where they want to go or how they want to get there. So one of my big ones is passion. So one of the funny stories about passion is, how many of you are here for magic? Raise your hand if you're actually a magician. Okay. I'm not a magician, but I made her cough go away if you drink some water. Like that, right? It's crazy how that works. Okay. So years ago I saw a magician, so I found a magic shop, and I went in, and one of them is they have a bowling ball come out of a briefcase. Now, when I talked to the guy who's selling me this product, he's like, it's jaw-dropping. You should see how the audience, you come in there and the bowling ball comes out, and it's crazy how excited they get. So what did I do? I dropped $350 on a fake briefcase and a bowling ball. I wasn't supposed to tell you that it's fake, but it holds paper, okay? So the idea is that the idea is this. The briefcase and the bowling ball by itself is incredibly boring. It's like the tablecloth right here, okay? It's white, it's simple, it sits there in my office. It does nothing until you use it. We are so used to ourselves, we are boring. We are the white tablecloth. But when you create your magic, when you create your financials, when you're an expert, when you're really good at what you do, it's jaw-dropping, right? But if you can't be your own advocate, and if you can't share that story, then you don't have passion and enthusiasm, and you're going to have a harder time finding your next job. How many of you have, like when we were kids, where you buy the deck of cards, the magic cards, and you're all excited, they show up, and after about a couple of minutes, you're like, forget this, I know how to do the trick, and it's boring, right? So I have a bunch of cards or decks of cards in my office that I look at every day. But if I were to talk to the gentleman selling me the magic trick, right, it's jaw-dropping, and you just have to have it, and by the way, it's $50 a deck, right, which is where I came up with the fact that you guys should charge more money, because you pay more money when you're interesting, and when you're able to promote yourself, and when you're able to align with people who actually get you, want to work with you, and own you or buy you, right? It's like selling your house. Some of you get 5 offers, 3 offers the same day. All of a sudden, you underpriced your house, right? And then the magic of selling it for more than what you listed it for happens. It's the same thing for you. Create the magic around your own attitude and personality, and passion and enthusiasm are the key to being able to do that. One of the highlights of my life where I was able to use passion and enthusiasm is I also became an auctioneer about 6 years ago. So before the Cubs won the World Series, I was able to sell 4 Cubs tickets at an auction for a charity event in Lincolnshire. So I would ask you here, other than that, what would I sell 4 Cubs tickets for 2 years before the World Series? What do you think that they go for? Throw out a number. $4. $100. 100. Give me 2. Would anyone give me 2? Would have been a 2, would have been a 2, now 3, would have been a 3, now 3, would have been a 4. I got 4 over there, now 5, would have been a 5. Would have been a 5. Would have been a 5, by the way, is my $5,000 award. Would have been. Okay. So the idea is I sold 4 tickets for $13,000. But then I asked for 2 sets, and within 3.5 minutes, I sold 8 tickets for $26,000. Passion, enthusiasm. There's a video at chatcoauctioneer.com where at $3,000, I was on stage with Tom Ricketts, and he says that you could trade any 5 ball players. So I learned, because everyone laughed in the room, that laughter is important. Laughter includes trust. So if you could create that positive energy, I went from $3,500 to $10,000 quickly. And then at $10,000, he said you could spray paint your name on the ivy, created some more laughter, and I was up to $13,000. And then I asked Tom for 2 sets of tickets, right? Here's the other thing. We're all left-brained in here. We can't even imagine what that would look like or how do you get there, right? So what I'm asking you all is get out of your left brain and into your creative right brain, and to be able to watch the magic of the things that I'm talking about, because a lot of what I'm talking about, that you could ask Alan, happens just because I care. He comes to my office every day, he's like, you know, what happened today that was unexpected and that I can't even imagine, right? But things happen all the time because I'm open to the opportunities that the world is abundant and it's giving us whatever it is that we want if we care enough to be able to have it. So those are a couple of things right there to be able to use. The other thing would be is to ask, right? And ask questions to be able to ask. Salespeople need to ask 6 or more times to be able to make the sale. I know people that are interviewing today 8+ times to be able to get a job, including the tests on psychology and all those other things. 8+ times. So if you have to, understand in your mindset that it might take you 6 months of pinging, of emailing, of asking for opportunities or jobs or interviews or a second meeting or a follow-up. Because today's world, it's not just 1 or 2 interviews and you get the job. It could take 8 to 10. That being said, don't be afraid to ask in a way where it's about them. I really want to help you get where you want to go. Do you have any update on us working together? Okay? There's a gentleman right now, it happens every time. How many of you have been in job interviews where all of a sudden it goes dead on a Monday and they don't call you back and they were supposed to call you on Friday, right? And how many times, if you reflect or had a group conversation, there's a death in the family, there's an emergency, there's a crisis, someone flew in town, someone left town. There's always a reason why someone delays 3 to 5 days to be able to get back to you. So what I'm sharing with you, just take that as a belief and give people the extra 3 to 5 days to be able to get back to you. Or nicely send them 1 or 2 lines and just say, hey, I'm following up from our conversation. You had said you're going to get back to me on Friday. Is there any update? Today is Tuesday. And you'll see within an hour they'll typically respond to you with what's going on or why they haven't got back to you. Many, many, many times it's not about you, it's about them. So make sure that you ask. Joe, next time we're going to use your computer. Okay, it might move forward a little bit, it may not. Technology. Okay, so before we get to the end, because this may or may not work, is there any questions up till this point? We have about another 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll come up with some more things to talk about. But if you have some questions, that might be more important.
We're speaking about questions, so a key is great questions. So what are some of your favorite great questions?
Well, it's making it about you, right? So great questions are in the book, too. A lot of us are afraid to network. We're afraid to interact with other people. We're afraid to be able to open up the conversations. So if you're making it about them, it's just, hey, Phil, I love your shirt. Are you the owner of the company? Do you work for the company? How did you get involved in the company, right? Another question that I like is a 3-part question. What are the 3 things that you really love about your company? And what I'll do is when you give me the answer is I'll build on the 3rd answer that you give me. But what I also learned is questions, we end up with really basic questions, but as you start practicing asking questions, you'll find that opportunities, not opportunities, but better questions will start showing up for you where you're going to be able to get better answers. And here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to ask the questions that you're thinking about. You'll be amazed that people answer them. And when you ask really good questions, questions build trust, and with trust build opportunity and land people jobs, right? So you have another question out there that wants to be able to ask? No? Joe's part of my mastermind group. We sit every week, And I'll give you an example of being able to have aligned people to be able to help you and guide you and talk to you. How many of you are public speakers? Right? So it's something that if you practice, you can get better at, and that people will appreciate because you're actually making it about them. The presentation I have today is about you. When you could deal with people who are aligned, where it's a world of givers versus takers, there's very simple ways for us to be able to get better at anything that we do. So as an example, where Joe's in our group, we were talking about public speaking, and where you would say and ah, and your skills are that of being maybe 50% of the way there. In many cases, when you're around the right people who can coach you, help you, or mentor you, you could get your skills up to 90 to 100% in a very short time. So one of the things that I talk about in my past is that I've been coached, mentored, guided. I still have coaches. I still go to class. I still practice what I do, right? Because I want to be able to be the best at certain things, which is public speaking, financial planning, helping you with your retirement, running mastermind groups, facilitating meetings, right? Auctioneering, helping charities raise more money. These are the things I'm passionate about. Because I'm passionate, I want to be the very best there is at those. So I'll take the time to be mentored, coached, or practice what it is that I do. So one of the slides up here that's not here is that I believe that we need to practice what it is that we do. So in this case, I'm going actually in August to a program where it's 3 days of role play. So how many of you have actually taken the time, since you're not professional job seekers, to actually role play interviews and having your communication critiqued or modified for the different people that you're going to communicate with, right? Maybe even having 2 different resumes depending on what you're doing or who you're going to be talking to. The other thing that's a slide up here is LinkedIn. How many of you take LinkedIn seriously? How many of you have a professional profile picture? Right? So many of you do, about 10 of you don't. I'm going to recommend very strongly you have a professional LinkedIn profile picture. How many of you have a summary that's been wordsmithed or that you've taken a lot of time to be able to describe who you are and what value you bring to a company? So if recruiters are spending all their days on the web, on LinkedIn, looking at who you are, and you're looking for a job, doesn't it make sense that the very first place that they're going to see about you, or second after you send them a resume, would be your LinkedIn profile? So I'm going to suggest and ask that you have your summary really honed in and have professionally wordsmithed as to what you could do for them with some verbs and some words that talk about that you're an expert and why you want to work there. Okay? So I'm going to ask you that you take the time to be able to really hone in and use your LinkedIn how it's meant to be able to do. There's also a check mark where you could have recruiters, where you're open to being able to find recruiters. I'm going to ask that you do that as well. But I'm also a fan of putting your current job as in transition or looking for an opportunity. I don't think, and someone could correct me, but I think that with recruiters today, with people being in flux every 2 or 3 years, that now you're the easy pickings to go and get the next job versus to take someone from a job that they're already in for 5, 10, or 15 years. I think someone like ourselves who are in transition and worthy and have a great history, the recruiters would like us, and then we're able to shift and move to the new job. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. Before I wrap up, because we could be done in a couple minutes, is there any final questions? Do you have one?
On your note about getting professional photographs taken,
Yeah.
if anyone is interested in the contact, I just had mine done and I'm a great photographer. I'm happy to share the information.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay, so hopefully you found today interesting and useful. If you'd like to come in and visit myself or Alan, it's a free consultation to be able to do that. We're here to be able to help and guide you and help you find your next role. We're here to try to open up doors for you. I know that Kathy does the same thing and a few other people here. So again, my suggestion is to reach out and start asking for help and let people do that. We're passionate about it, we care about you, and we want you guys to be employed. Thank you very much.